just eliminate the hazard from the root, right? If that's not applicable, and usually it's not applicable because we need to retain this risk, we need to live with it. So a careful and entire risk assessment need to be carried out to consider each and every steps in working at height. Okay. Then methodology of the work at height need to be considered. So when working at height, for example, let's take the example of erections of scaffold. The scaffolders themselves need to consider the methodology of erections. Nowadays, for example, as you have seen in the videos, there are a very advanced methodology of erecting the handrails before approaching the end protective area. So advanced hand reading. Permit to work, especially to ensure the communications and coordinations between different parties, which involves in working at height, especially where people are working in different levels. Right? And last minute risk assessment, I really recommend these things because it's very effective and very useful. Last minute risk assessment is similar to it's something assessing the generic 5-step risk assessment. It's conducted just before the work. As you know, guys, that ladies and gentlemen, that there are some contractors who work in different environments. I mean working environment. So we don't own the environment. There are some companies that own their own environment and they are habitual with the environment, but other contractors who just frequently change the environment. So changing the environment, bringing up the factors of the environment. I mean the environmental hazards, the design, the locations and lighting, wind of the workplace. So this continuous risk assessment, or as we call it, last minute risk assessment, cover this gap. And just making the generic risk assessment, the 5-step one, up to date. I will pass some things, but we will take some examples for. Let's speak about this, for example, steel fixing. Here is a methodology of erection a scaffold just close to the area where steel needs to be fixed, and to provide the workers with a safe environment. Here is another example. We can see here a multi-story building without edge protections. And as you can see that there are some blocks here. Storing blocks near to the edge, which raising potentials of falling objects, right? But on the other hand, there is someone need to come to this area, right? And bring and take these blocks to somewhere else, right? So there are the both now. There is a potential of falling objects, and on the other hand, there is a potential of someone to fall from there. And as the height is around more than 6 meters, so the severity of this is very high as well. Here is examples of edge protections for openings, which usually we find it on floors. Okay, scaffolds. We are going to very fastly, briefly, we will go through these 11 points. First, we will go to, I'm going to speak about the competency of the scaffolders and scaffolding inspectors and scaffolding engineers. Then we will speak about the scaffolding materials and the defects materials. of scaffolding as well. Scaffolding design, scaffolding handing over certificate, scaffolding tagging system, and scaffold user inspections. Right? And some common types of scaffold ties, safe ladders, freestanding towers, and the ratio, scaffold classifications and the duties of scaffold user. First of all, the competency. Without competent people, regardless if we bring the best material ever in the world, but we don't have the competent people to erect them, end of the day we will get a bad quality scaffold. Bad quality scaffold means unsafe scaffold, right? So unsafe scaffold will raise the potentials of falling from height and falling objects. So we need to consider the competency of the scaffolders. But it's not only the scaffolders, it's the scaffolders as well as the inspectors, as well as the designer. So if we are going, for example, to choose transferring the risk, if we go to control our risk by transferring this risk to someone else, for example, a specialist contractor, right? So in this case, we need to consider this. Let's assume that I don't know anything with regard to the scaffold. So what should I do? I need to consider the competency. How should I verify whether these people are competent or not? I need to find out what scaffolding a qualification do they have. I need to find such certificates of the scaffolders and of the scaffolding inspection and of the scaffolding engineer. Safe materials. The scaffolding material need to be compliant with the relevant standard. If we take the example of TG20, for example, right? If I say that I'm adopting TG20 standard, I'm adopting TG20 guidance. So to adopt this, I cannot adopt TG20 standard while I'm using cap block material. It needs to be TG20 approved material. I cannot follow a TG20 standard while I'm using each frame material. Can't be. So TG20 will tell you, you need to have this. You need to have such a material which complied with this relevant standard. So, as we say previously, competent people did complied material. Here are some examples of TG20 approved material. Tubes, which shows that the thickness of the tube needs to be 4 mm. The thickness of boards need to be 38 mm by 225 mm, and so for each. And here I just displayed the about boards and about the tubes. But for each and every fitting, there are specifications that need to be considered. Here are some examples of defects, scaffolding, boards, and tubes. So for tubes, for example, paint tubes cannot be used. If you have some tubes which bend, right? You cannot use it. Usually tubes bend because of wrong erections. We will go back to the competency now. When the scaffold erected by incompetent people, so wrong erections will be done, then material will be affected, and so on and so on. Okay, mushroom, usually by violations. Cross-cut, usually by cutting, so violations. Okay, when it comes to boards, here are some examples as well. Proking boards, as Mr. Hassan said, that boards which proke, right? And it could be because of several reasons. Pearl boards, painted boards, or contaminated with oils. So now, painting boards, anyone knows why painting boards is not compliant? Hiding. Excellent. Hiding the defect. When the board is painted, it will hide the defect. so it's not possible to examine it. May we examine it, but it's not careful, right? It's not as adequate as we want, right? More further, painted and contaminated scaffold with oil. It's not acceptable for something else as well. Anyone knows? I'll tell you, no worries. When the boards painted, especially with the oil-based paint, right? Or when it's contaminated with a flammable oil, what will happen to the board? This OSHA approved boards designed not to catch flame. It could burn when it's exposed to a hot surface. It could burn, but it won't catch flame, right? So there's something very good with this board. Once I had the experience that one scaffolding company said that, okay, we are going to hire a board, ordinary board, or from the client, and we will just erect the frame, right? And we will hire the boards from them. So what do you advise? They were asking about my advice. I said, no, we cannot. Why we cannot? Because the ordinary board could catch fire, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then twist it, right? But see, we need to mention something here. If the board's contaminated or twisted or defect, but the defect is not that much, and it's not contaminated with something flammable, so we can use it as what? As a tool board, right? As sole boards can be used, but you need to mention on it. Here are just pictures we have covered. Okay, design. Some scaffold which not covered in the compliance sheets. Okay, when I speak about compliance sheet, I'm referring to the TG20. In TG20, there is something called compliance sheet. Compliance sheet is a guidance, specific guidance. Right? This TG20 guys, they will tell you if you are using this material, which are approved with our relevant standard, and following this erection method, you are going to have a scaffold capable to bear this much of load, right? So when the compliance sheet doesn't mention this particular scaffold, or when the scaffold have such special, I don't think it's very clear, but when the scaffold have a special structure, special shapes, right? In this case, I will show you an example later. In this case, you need to have a design, and there are several circumstances where design is required. But we will take this example for now, right? So when design is prepared for a scaffold, design must be followed and adhered to from A to Z. Okay, it happens that a design is there, right? But the design is not practicable. We cannot do it, or something comes up. Maybe the designer did not consider an element or some object, something key in the workplace. He did not consider it well. So the scaffold cannot be erected there. So what's the solutions now? What shall I do? I have to go back to the designer and tell him, see, your design is perfect, but it cannot be done. So review it, redesign it, right? I need to ask him to redesign it, communicate the things with him, redesign it. And after redesigning, going back to the work and proceeding in erections. But different deviations from designs, it's totally risky, and it's not recommended at all. Okay, handing over certificate. Something very important for those people who do not have a very good background about scaffold. Okay, when I take XYZ company and ask them, okay, come, do for me a scaffold. And this company, accordingly, erect a scaffold for me, right? What should I do? Should I check the tag and use the scaffold? Yeah, we can. But before that, there is something else. If they erect a scaffold, they need to give me something called handing over certificate. This handing over certificate will tell me something very, very important. First of all, it will certify and confirm that the scaffold is safe to use. So it can be used even as a legal evidence in case of the bad scenario, right? Then it will tell me the limitations, the load limitation of the scaffold. So it will tell me this scaffold is heavy duty scaffold, or this scaffold is very light duty scaffold. So you cannot use it for storing, as Mr. Hassan said, you cannot use it for storing heavy objects. More further, it will tell me some terms and conditions of usage. Examples of that, and there will be an questions, so concentrate. Examples of that is, don't cover the scaffold with a sheet. Because it will add force, impactions on the scaffold when it's tailwind, right? Okay, we verify the competency and we got the handing over certificate. Now we need to use the scaffold. What should we do? We need to look at this. Is there a tag, green tag? Is it updated? Or the last updations was since 3 or 4 months? When it's fine, so now we can use it. Okay, here are some conditions where the scaffold either need to be inspected or re-inspected. Okay, first of all, before the very first use, the scaffold need to be inspected. So when the scaffold is erected, and before any use, they need to inspect it. And by the way, even for the scaffolder use, maybe the scaffolder say, okay, I'm a scaffolder. Why should I have this green tag? No, you need to have it. And you need to inspect the scaffold. Okay? Then, following a modifications, especially when it's a major modification, when there is alterations in the scaffold, so the scaffold need to be re-inspected. Following adverse weather, when it's turned very windy, or very raining too much, right? Or snowing we don't have in Bahrain, but raining could have, hopefully. Following any impact that could affect the integrity and the strength of the scaffold. And the sky is the limit. You can just imagine whatever impact. If the scaffold, for example, impacted by a vehicle, by moving things, by whatever, right? Contaminated with some substance that could affect the structure of scaffold, fire, whatever. So following this, when there is a doubt that the integrity of the scaffold being affected, following this, we have to re-inspect it. Okay, here is a small reminder. Remember that the inspection should be carried out by a fully competent person. I have experience, I went across people, some HSE personnel who signing the tag. It's very, very risky. You are taking very big risk when you sign a tag. When the scaffold is unsafe and you sign it and say, okay, it's safe, go ahead. You may be taken to the court even. But it's very, just I recommend to avoid such things. Okay. Okay. Going across those conditions need to be followed by using some, let's say, some criteria to check the scaffold. Okay, I may go through all of the scaffolder qualification, and I found them qualified, competent, and I may get the handing over certificate, and I may get the design. But there is something called what? cutting corner, shortcut, right? And there are something called what? Violations. So we may cover all and go through all and each elements of which we have already spoke about. But end of the day, there could be some deviations from their own procedures. Maybe they say, okay, we will follow this, but they did not. So in this case, it's recommended to have some basic knowledge about the scaffold. Examples of that, if the handrail, for example, need to be there. So if I have a green tag scaffold, but without handrail, so I need to raise a question mark, right? And here are several things, but we are not going to go through each and everything, right? Because for the time. Okay. I put this because I have been asked frequently about the ratio of the height, the maximum height, and the ratio of the maximum height and how to count it. Okay? And here we are. Let's see. There are two types of scaffold, right? Towers. There's something called mobile with caster wheel. Another thing is called static, right? So mobiles which use caster wheel, it goes up to 3.5 ratio to the smallest dimensions. Smallest dimensions, I will explain it in simple words so each and everyone can know what does it mean. If we see, for example, we have a 4 standard. Standard is the things that goes vertically, the pipes, right? We need to see from standard, for example, A to standard B, and standard B to standard C, right? Let's say that this scaffold has this dimension, 1.3 by 2.7, right? So I need to take this one, 1/3, multiply it by 3.5, and just go up. This is the allowable height, right? Okay. When it goes for static, means without caster wheel, not mobile, it can go for 4 times the smallest dimension. Okay, this for internal. Internal means that somewhere where there is the scaffold is not subject to wind.
You mean inside the building? And
inside the building.
Indoor, outdoor?
Yeah, indoor. Yeah, excellent. So indoor, the scaffold is not subject to wind, can go to this. If it's external, subject to wind, it will go below that. So. And it's good to mention also, it need to be measured from here till here. So the handrail is not considered. Okay. Okay. Here, I don't think I cannot say that as you see because I don't think all of you see it. It's not clear. But I will take the example of the first one. This is some classification of the scaffold, right? We have very light duty scaffold, which can bear each square meter 0.75 kilonewton. Each kilonewton, by the way, equal 102 kilogram. Each kilonewton, right? Okay, and we go light duty, which can bear 1.5, and general purpose 2 kilonewton. And here are some dimensions and measurements of the scaffold that you can use. We'll not go through this one because we don't have that much of time. Okay, we'll go through some types of scaffolding tiles, which commonly used. And by the way, I have to say something that we will go through this not to erect them. If we are not competent, as we said in the beginning, if we are not competent, we are not supposed to erect them. But we will go through them to see how to find out when there's something abnormal. Right? We will go through this So you can find out if you see something abnormal, not looking as these ties looks. So you can raise the questions to the concerned person. Yeah, this is the first one called reveal tie. Reveal tie looks like this. Has two jacks. It's just wedged in between two building or two wall to prevent the movement of the scaffold. This box tie, as it looks, see, it looks like a box, and it's very recommended. And here we have throw tie, which goes inside a window, inside an opening on the building. And we have here Syncro or anchor ties, or some people call it masonry ties, or some others call it as well. There are several names of this. Healthy tie. It's roll bolts secured in the wall and fastening the scaffold. But this tie needs to be tested. So if someone used this tie, so he needs to give you a test certificate. Okay. Coming to the duties of the scaffold user, something very important. First of all, to comply with the load limitation, which will be found on the handing over certificate or on the scaffolding tag. Okay. Not to carry out any modifications. Very, very important. Usually or frequently, scaffold collapse because of third-party modifications. It could be erected perfectly, but someone comes because and components of the scaffold interfering his work, just remove it, and the scaffold could be collapsed. Or if not collapsed, could cause an injury. Especially when people just habitual to work in a certain area. For example, if I work in this scaffold for 1 month, right? I used to go through it. So we use something called online thinking. Online thinking, لا وعي يعني. Online thinking, when it goes, just when you do the things without stopping and thinking about it, taking decisions automatically, right? If in this scaffold something being changed, this guy who used to use it for 1 or 3 or 5 months could exposed to a fatal or exposed to very major accident when handrail removed or when board removed, because he will just step on and walk, right? So modification is something very bad and something need to be really controlled and monitored. Okay, not to do any activity that could affect the scaffold. Hot work activity, right? And there are some pictures I will show you at the end of this slide, so which affecting the scaffolding integrity. Report anything that may affect the scaffold. Okay, we'll see a safe means of access to fragile roof. See, this one was done in MOL. So fragile roofs. So when we work in fragile roofs, what should we do? First of all, we need to identify the fragile area. We need to find out what is the solid area, what is the fragile area, and what is there is a chance of a fault. Then determine the access solution. So in here, as you see, a special design scaffold was erected to change this. See, here is the access, and this is the walkway. And here is the counterway. Very special one. So without this, imagine if the people was sent here to work without this, right? The potential would be very high of faults.
Is there any protection underneath, or just
in here?
Outside, inside the tank, what call it?
Inside this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one, this this covered.
I mean, inside the roof. Under the roof, is there any protection?
No.
Just outside only?
Yeah, it's hollow. It's just like this. But under this one, where the structure weight is, and where this counterweight is, there is a structure which holds all this thinking. Okay, coming to the PPE, the last solutions, right? Here is examples of some fall prevention PPE, right? This is what Mr. Hassan spoke about, the
Safety harness.
suspension strap. Actually, it's used to give the guy who's suspended more time to be rescued. Right? Here is retracting lanyard, where this need to be used, where there's a less distance to free fall. Okay, issuing PPE need to be followed by training. But I will tell you something and take it with you, and just when you go across your work site, you can look at it. A lot of people, when using hand safety harness, just tying the chest strap up to him. It's very risky because when this poor guy falls down, he will hang himself. He can be smothered by the belt itself. Okay.
Where it should be? Under the chest?
It need to be in this area. Because it's shown here. Then, using of harness need to be monitored. We will issue, train, and we will tell them what's the importance of harness. Then we will monitor them. Right? So supervise them, because still violation would be there. And see here, you're showing the area, this area. خلاص. Okay. Emergency response. We need to be always prepared for the emergency response. And we need to train the people and practice it. And frequently just do it and do it and do it. Because when people panic, they just rush. They just react by their natures. So we need to practice it. And by practical training, it's not by theory, not on classroom environment. No, give them the rescue kit. Let them use it by their bare hands. And use it and supervise them. Here is examples of rescue drill which conducted in Alba Line 6. And I should mention something also about the suspension trauma, that the rescue see some response when it comes about suspension trauma. The rescue must be as soon as possible. There is no time limit. Don't say, okay, it's for 1 hour. You can't stand there. I will drink some tea and come back. Then we rescue him. No, it needs to be immediately. Because we need to consider the factors of the fitness, right? My health conditions is not like Mr. Abdulla health conditions. It's not like Mr. Yasser health conditions, right? So this need to be considered. So rescue need to be immediately, right? Okay, this is the interesting part. What's wrong? Come on.
Uncertified lifting gears and types of ladder.
Yeah, excellent. And what's the consequence? Why we think it's not safe? Yeah? We spoke about the load limitation, right?
Yes.
Yeah? And this also components, if not, it was scrapped by the way. But if this was not scrapped and used in somewhere else, it's already affected. So the engineers will say, okay, the tube capable to hold this much of load without considering this, and failure could happen, right? First catch for Mr. Yasser. We'll see seconds. Whose is this? What's wrong? What's wrong?
Construction, شباب.
Improper scaffolding erection, uncompleted scaffolding, no safety harness, no fall protection, nothing. Shortcut. Yeah, uncompleted. And they bought they bought on the handrails,
Yeah.
not use the original scaffold.
Excellent.
Not
And
following
as
the
Mr. Hassan
standard.
said that there was an accident due to not using something here called intermediate transom. Because we cannot rely on the board. The boards could look excellent, fine, new, right? But there's internal crack inside, which not visible, right? A poor guy, like this guy, even the violators, the poor people, because they believe from their, they have the belief that nothing will go wrong. That's why they violate. If they have 1% that if they do like that, they will be killed, never they will do it. Right? So this guy, without harness, sitting here, right? And this board broke, and you imagine the consequence. We, I mean the HSC personnel, just imagine and consider the worst scenario, how worst scenario will happen, and how we will control it, right? Oh, okay, what's wrong with this?
Electrical connection.
Yeah, what else? What do you think about this wall?
Modified scaffold.
Wiring also must.
This I will tell you, this is also
Tripping hazard.
third-party modification. When he bought this board, okay, so the sizing and the spacing of the handrail, gone. Handrail need to be 1 meter and blah 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 blah. But if he bought a board and jump on it, so it will be below the requirement, right? Okay, what's wrong with this?
They modified the scaffolding, they put internal scaffolding to go up.
Yeah. What else?
I think
Yeah, no transom, it's not very clear. No transom, drops too much. And there is something here, very technical. See, the cup lock here must be in the north point. There is something called north point here. Must be there, not here, in this area, right? What's wrong with this? Oh, okay, in this area. No standard angle. Okay, what about this? Looks very nice, huh?
yeah.
Looks very nice.
The scaffolding covered by sand, which can damage the scaffolding quality.
Yeah?
Plus it will affect.
Let's imagine. Okay, let's imagine, let's assume the material is perfect. Okay, there is something wrong. What?
Loose materials, loose sand materials.
Yeah, what else? See, this cantilever cannot exceed
It's unsupported.
three boards without standing, right?
Yeah.
And this one is not looks clear. If it's not clear, I believe that you will catch it. But this very close to the edge, right? There is only one bracing, and this bracing taking, so the support taking from the
So all the load
standard
on
need to be
one
supported,
bracing.
right? And so much things. By the way, see this ladder. If this ladder taking out all the scaffold.
ومتعكز على اللدر يعني.
بتركز على اللدر، يعني اذا واحد يهني من غير اللدر كلها تطيح. شكلها لطيف بس هذا. اوكي، خلي بس هاي نشوف شباب. What's wrong with this?
I think the bracing is not only two bracing, it looks like, and the safety net is.
There's something very critical. It's not clear, but out there. See this sheeting? The sheet. sheet was erected, was fixed by the user of the scaffold without approval from the scaffolding contractor. So this sheet could affect the entire scaffold when it's turn windy because it will resist the air, right? When it's exposed to air, it could collapse because of this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention.